A Christian man was just assassinated by Muslim jihadists in Stockholm, Sweden. This assassination took place on Wednesday, the 29th of January 2025. This man's name is Salwan Momika. He was an Iraqi immigrant and anti-Islamic protester who criticized and denounced Islamic ideals in the West, having come from the Islamically dictated society of Iraq. In 2023, he burned Qur'ans in public and frequently spoke about the violent tendencies that Islam teaches and endorses. This man was not a stranger to posting about Islamic affairs all over social media. After burning many Qur'ans in Sweden, he was charged in August 2023 for agitation against an ethnic group. His trial date was set for late January 2025, but has since been dropped due to his unfortunate assassination. On Wednesday night, he was live streaming in a private residence when supposedly 5 Muslim men broke in and committed an assassination on him live. Salwan was extremely outspoken about the reasons as to why he didn't think that Islam had any place in Western society. Salwan had no confusion on what his intentions were. Salwan said on X that I will be tried on charges of contempt of Islam and burning the Quran. The leftists insist that burning the Quran and criticizing Islam is incitement against Muslims, and I insist on criticizing and fighting Islam even if you sentence me to death. I will utter my last words and criticize Islam. And sentenced to death he was, but by Muslim jihadists. Salwan Momika, since burning Qur'ans in 2023, has been on terrorist hit lists and jihadist hit lists for a long time. The Swedish government knew this. Even knowing this, the prosecutors on his court trial said that he should be extradited to Iraq just because he criticized Islam and burned the Qur'ans, where they know that under Iraqi state law he will be executed. Salwan Momika is quoted on X as saying, "Today the trial has ended and I face the charges against me for criticizing Islam. The prosecutors asking the court to extradite me to Iraq just because I criticized Islam and burned the Quran." So let me just get this straight. You have a man who's being prosecuted for speaking out against destructive ideals, destructive principles, destructive laws from Islam, being a man who comes from an Islamic state in Iraq. And the prosecutors in Sweden decide that they want to extradite him back to Iraq, where they know that he's going to be under big threat. His life is going to be threatened extremely quickly, because that's the type of state these Islamic states are. And knowing this, they decide they want to send him back to Iraq, when this man is appealing with them and appealing with Norway for asylum to get away from the people that he knows are after his life. And what makes this even worse is this is the prosecutor's idea of judging freedom of speech against Islamic ideals. This is the type of society we live in, where you can't even call a spade without having your life threatened and assassinated, as in the case of Salwan Momika, for speaking out against something that he's seen firsthand and something that he knows is destructive to society. Well done, Sweden. What's even more interesting is that Salwan Momika literally spoke about on X, said, "I know very well that Muslims will kill me one day, but I am not afraid and I will not back down from my principles and defending Sweden and the West, and I'm ready to pay the price for that." And this man is labeled as inciting hate against Islam, when he's literally voicing his concerns for the West and for Sweden, that Islam is going to destroy their society with their destructive principles, their destructive ideals, the destructive legislations and practices. And it's not like Salwan was the boy who cried wolf. Salwan wasn't the boy who cried wolf. There's many examples of this. I mean, you look on the internet for 5 minutes for Islamic violence, you'll find it very quickly. But the fact that this man literally knew that he would be killed by Muslims and was not afraid of it, because that's how strong his conviction against this destructive religion was, and this violent religion was. And the Swedish government thought, hey, let's extradite this man to a country where they're going to kill him even faster. That sounds like a good idea. And I just want you to take note of the hypocrisy of this entire situation. Islam is no stranger to condemning other religions.
Tonight, authorities in Pakistan cracking down after days of religious violence in the country. Mobs setting fire to the roads of Punjab province, burning 5 churches and attacking dozens of Christian homes. Police deploying more than 6,000 officers and troops, arresting at least 146 Muslims in connection with the attacks.
There was absolutely no logic or reason to attack or ransack the Christian worship places, or the houses for that matter.
But the instant you point a sword at Islam, a verbal sword at Islam, oh my, wow, it's assassination.
You're finished, you're finished, you're finished, Wallah, you're finished.
It seems to me like Islam is about rules for thee and not for me. Islam is about, let's see how many people we can scare into believing what we believe in, because that's how peaceful we are. Amy Mack on X was quoted as saying, and I like the way that she spoke about this, she said, hours after Salwan Mamika's assassination, Sweden's government funded media justified his Sharia execution. Salwan Mamika wasn't just assassinated, he was executed with the full complicity of Sweden's government and media. But the most damning proof of this betrayal didn't come from politicians or journalists. It came from a woman on Swedish state-funded TV wearing a government-affiliated jacket justifying his murder. The face of submission. Days after Mamika was shot dead on live camera, Sweden's state-funded broadcaster SVT aired an interview with a woman in Södertälje, the very city where he was executed. Instead of condemning his murder, she blamed him for his own death. She said, "He lived in the wrong area. He doesn't respect Muslims and the Quran. That's very hard for others. We must respect Allah." She wasn't just a random passerby. She was wearing a Södertälje municipality jacket, meaning she was either a government worker or affiliated with local authorities. A government-linked woman justifying an Islamic execution on state TV. This wasn't a mistake, this was a message. Blasphemers should expect consequences. Sweden's government has spent over a year painting Mamika as a criminal, pushing to deport him and refusing to protect him, even though they knew he was on multiple terrorist hit lists. They vilified him for over a year, prosecuted him under hate speech laws, tried to deport him to Iraq where he faced execution for blasphemy, or where he'd face execution for blasphemy, refused to protect him despite knowing he was on terrorist hit lists, allowed his assassination in a government-run residence where he was denied protection, refused to even say his name or show a shred of outrage after he was executed, convicted his grieving friend for failing to renounce Mamika's words. Now, their state-funded media is telling the public he brought it on himself. Sweden has fully adopted Islamic blasphemy laws without admitting it. This is the news report that I had just mentioned.
Tror han bor i fel område. Han respekterar inte muslim och Koran. Och det är jättejobbigt för andra. Vi måste respektera alla.
This is what a lady known as Rebecca Mr. Reagan posted on X.
Salwan Mamika came to Europe to escape Islam. Yet Islam killed him here in Europe. We could probably have saved his life if Norway accepted his application for asylum. But we didn't want to. Instead, we import terrorists from Palestine. We fly the Taliban on a private jet to Norway to discuss women's rights. We invite the third world and then come up with action plans on how to protect their fascist murder ideology that they are trying to implement here. Sweden seems like a Sharia to me.
And so, this case of Salwan Mamika is just a textbook example of Islam saying, hey, you want to blaspheme against our religion? Well, you're going to pay the price. This is classical submission by fear-mongering. And that's exactly what Islam is. It's a fear-mongering religion. And so your next question might be, hey, Well, did their fear-mongering tactics work? Well, thankfully, this is the 21st century where we have the internet. And so, this is what happened. I mean, it was pure chaos. Sorry, maybe you didn't hear me. I said it was pure chaos.